Hi everyone, Coach Steve here. As I'm seeing it on the forums a lot, and it's a question I get asked a lot, I'm going to address the question that if I have completed a 70.3, am I ready to step up to full distance? Actually, I got asked to present on the same subject at IRONMAN Mallorca in 2021. So I've rehashed the presentation, made it a little bit crisper, and cut out the Q&A, obviously. So I'm going to go through that presentation and hope it addresses people's questions. Okay, so who am I? Coach Steve, award-winning coach, been coaching for 15 years plus, been racing Ironman Distance for around 20 years, 9 Ironman finishes so far. That needs to be updated. 12 70.3s. I tend to race a fair bit, and I do a lot of coaching online. Okay, but not about me, about your question. So the question we'll cover is what's involved in stepping up from actually being able to complete a 70.3 to be able to complete an Ironman distance. What other considerations are there aside from time involved, which is obviously the big crucial thing, and ability, and also, do I need new equipment? Okay, point one. What's the main difference between training volume and training intensity and time requirements to actually go from 70.3 up to full Ironman distance? So to answer this question, I have actually taken two of my beginner plans from Training Peaks, and I pulled out similar weeks to actually just highlight the difference. So this is the beginner 70.3 plan, and it's build week 6. Build is when you're actually getting more race specific sessions, and typically the training volume will be close to peak, depending where you are in the build phase, but it will be fairly chunky, so it's a good illustrative of what time's involved. So I had a look through, and essentially for a 70.3 beginner, I would have had people doing 2 swims a week, tech swim, and also kind of a speed endurance swim. On average, you'll require at least 3 bikes. One of these will be a key session, which will be a long bike, and in the plan that tends to peak at beginner level at 90 kilometers. So you're definitely bulletproof for that distance on the day. You will have at least 2 runs, one of which will be a long run. I also throw in bricks in these sessions as well, just to get you used to running off the bike. And the long run typically will peak at around 18 kilometers. Okay, so in terms of the average hours a week, you're looking around 8 hours of training. In terms of the peak hours, when the training's at its heaviest, when you're doing your longest bikes, your longest runs, and you're still doing your midweek stuff, you're looking at between 10 and 11 hours worth of training. So that gives you an idea. Compare that to what you've done in your own 70.3. So using a beginner Ironman plan with the exact same point in it, build week 6, you can see the differences. There's an additional swim. There's a stronger emphasis on doing an endurance swim, where you will build up to the point where you're covering around 4K in the pool. Again, just getting you used to be able to swim for that long, and also being able to concentrate for that length of time in the pool. There's also long open water swim sessions. Again, there's three bikes, but the big difference is the long bike, and that will peak at around 180k, exactly the Ironman distance for a beginner level. Again, it's a key milestone distance, and there's a psychological milestone in actually ticking that session off. 3 by runs. Again, one short brick will be probably off the long bike, just to kind of get you used to getting off the bike. That's our distance, and even running for a short 1-2 kilometer run, just to get used to that jelly leg feeling. The long run will peak at around 28 to 30 kilometers. Now people get a bit concerned by this and go, well, I'm gonna have to run a marathon in a day. Should I not be running a marathon? Absolutely not. The biggest risk to you getting to the start line of your Ironman is an injury. and that was heightens when you start running distances over 32 kilometers in a training block. Because remember, you're running already 2 times a week, you put a lot of bike mileage in, and you get a lot of aerobic fitness from being on the bike because you're exercising the same muscle groups. So absolutely no need to run over max 32 kilometers in your long run. So to compare, the average hours you will require to train for your Ironman if you want to finish strong on the day, I would say are between 10 to 12 hours a week, okay? So that's 2 to 4 hours more than what you would have expected compared to your 70.3 beginner plan. The peak hours, again, the real difference, obviously, as you can see, is the weekend training load builds up. That's you're running 28k, that's around 2.5 hour run. You're cycling 180k, that can be up to like 7-8 hours on the bike. So that's where your time really gets sucked up. But for the peak hours for a beginner plan are roughly around 15 hours. So you're looking at around 4 hours more than your half Ironman. So the real difference in the training is the long weekends. The structure during the midweek stuff is very similar. So if you can afford the time at the weekends and kind of plan it and make it work with your support squad, if you have completed a 70.3 comfortably, you will definitely be able to complete an Ironman plan if you nail down the weekend additional work. Okay, so what other considerations are there? The Ironman stuff and stuff training is the intensity and pacing is much different to the 70.3. You're going a lot longer, you need to control yourself a lot better with heart rate or power, depending on what you're going to use to control your intensity, but it's definitely a step down from what you'll be pushing on a 70.3 level. Nutrition, absolutely crucial for an Ironman. Whereas you may or may not get away with it on a 70.3 if you don't have a clear nutrition plan and execute it to the letter. You definitely will not finish well if you get your nutrition messed up on the day. So again, I put a big emphasis on learning your nutrition via training sessions, finding out what works for you, having a clear strategy on the day that you stick to, and it'll give you that amount of energy to cover that 12, 13, 14 hour plus day. The training duration, about how long you would take to actually get ready from up and to your A race. I'm a big fan, if it's your first Ironman, that you give yourself at least a minimum of 24 weeks. Ideally 36 weeks for me, because it gives you a chance to slowly build up to those peak distances and also bake in some B races and some other fun events around that. So not only are you building up your fitness and your ability to swim, cycle and run for long distances, you're also testing it and having a bit of fun. And an Olympic distance race, 70.3 race in your build-up is a really good thing to have. It just gives you a bit of confidence. And a lot of my guys tend to actually PB at their 70.3 distance when they're actually training for their Ironman. Okay, any other considerations? Equipment. Good news, if you have completed a 70.3 with a standard wetsuit, a road bike, a fitness wearable, good pair of runners, all of those pieces of equipment are exactly what you need for your Ironman. Yes, there is the option of upgrading to a TT bike depending on the course, but if cost is an issue for you, all of your 70.3 equipment will be 100% applicable for full distance. Now, yes, I know a lot of people here are dying for me to say, you really need a new bike. No, an Ironman year is expensive enough in terms of the race entry, there's travel, there's logistics, there's time that you'll have to just put into it, and food mainly, etc. So if you can get away with using your equipment beforehand, just go with it, and maybe give yourself a little carrot that, if you complete it well and you want to do it again, then you upgrade to a TT bike, or then you upgrade to the next Garmin, or then you upgrade to the next wetsuit. That's the way you kind of keep it interesting. Okay, to summarize, if you have done a 70.3 and were comfortable with the training load and it didn't cause stress at home and you managed it around work, you are in a very strong position to step up to Iron Distance level. And this means you just have to look very carefully about what your requirements are at the weekends, because you are looking at that's where the heavy lifting of your training plan will fall. But there's absolutely no reason, if you have a bit of flexibility those weekends, it's the right time of year for you, like there's no other things that will be pulling at your weekend time, go for it. Okay, guys, a little bit of info there for if you want to send me an email asking it. It's info@smartenduranceSolutions.com. There's the website, Instagram, Facebook, etc. Okay, guys, hope that was useful, and best of luck with your decision.